my car off. Start it back on. So my car is working. A little story time. Last week I dropped a there's a needle inside a carburetor that holds the float. There's a float attached to a needle. I'm gonna show you a picture of it. And pretty much, let me backtrack a little bit. Sorry, I just jumped right into it. I dropped that needle inside my carburetor, inside the engine, and I couldn't get it out. But before that, my car was dying. I was talking to my friend Javier at the corner store, and my car was on, and we're talking, and it just died, right? And I'm like, fucking, I turned it back on, and it started, and car started right away, right? No problem. So then we talked again. 5 minutes later, died. Or a couple minutes later, died. I'm like, okay, this is weird, right? And then I keep doing that. I turn it back on. It turns on. I drive it down the street, dies again. Drive it, do the same thing, turn it back on, drive it down the street, dies again. And then I called Javier, and Javier comes back. And we're trying to figure out the carburetor, and he thinks it's vapor lock, and I agree with him. You know, I didn't know what it was until he mentioned it to me, vapor lock. We somehow roll it, start it. He follows me, right? He helps me out big time. I turn it on, and he follows me to another friend's house named Big Robert. And Robert kindly lets me keep my car at his house for a week until I figured it out. And I opened up the carburetor, and the carburetor was dirty. It had the carburetor was dirty. It had some dirt inside, and I'm like, okay. And then I'm cleaning out the carburetor, and when I'm cleaning out the carburetor, I lift the deal over, and when I went over with it, the fucking needle slipped out, and I didn't know what it was, but I heard something fall inside the engine. I'm like, okay, that's not right. And luckily I looked inside, and I saw a little needle, and I tried to get a magnet, and I put a magnet in there, and the magnet didn't catch it. The magnet caught the other piece that holds the float in, but not the needle, because the needle is brass. So I'm trying to fish the needle out with a little hook. Robert's helping me, and I ended up pushing it further and further inside this guy. So I took out all these bolts and took this off. I took the carburetor off, took this off, try to grab it, try to get it, ended up pushing it further and further, because I'm trying to reach for it with this wire, and it ends up pushing it, and it goes down into a I think it's called a runner. It goes down. It went down when I took this off. When I took this off, it went down in here, whatever that is, down in there. And so I was like, fuck, you know, I don't know what to do. And I bought a carb rebuild kit for 20 bucks on eBay. A carburetor rebuild kit. And I waited a few days for that to come in, and that came in, and I put the new needle in there, cleaned out the carburetor. The carb is spotless clean. I put new carburetor studs in there. Yeah, so and luckily I came to his house. I tried to turn it on. I put the carburetor back on. I had it all cleaned up. I tried to turn it on, and it just went pow, pow, like a gunshot, right? It was like a legit gunshot. And I did it about 4 times until I personally gave up. I gave up. I was like, fuck it, you know. I thought I was gonna have to buy a new engine. I thought it fucked up my engine. I gave up. Robert comes out to his house, tells me it's a misfire, and I'm like, you know, what's a misfire? That sounds like a gunshot. It sounds like that needle really fucked shit up in my car. He said it's a misfire. So the way I put the distributor back on was wrong. It was supposed to be at a different angle. It was like 180 degrees. It was off, right? Causing a misfire, my distributor. And how I knew that, how somebody told me that, was his neighbor, Big Robert's neighbor, happens to own an old school classic shop. He happens to be a mechanic. He happens to be he's an old guy, happens to know everything about these old school cars. And he comes out here and he helps me. I tell him what I did. He helps me get the distributor back in the right spot, the timing close to right, to where I could start my car up. And then I started the car up and I heard that thing knocking in there. We heard that little needle, you know, going back and forth, just knocking. And what we did was, he told me to take out 2 spark plugs, and I took out spark plugs. Hopefully it'll shoot it out, right? It'll come out the spark plug hole. And I took 2 spark plugs out, started the car, and the knocking stopped. We didn't see it come out, but the knocking stopped. That thing either melted somewhere, or it went out and we just didn't know it, right? I was parked on grass. So that thing is out of my engine. I've been driving for over a week now, every day driving again. And I'm just so blessed. Like, I gave up, man. I was thinking I had to get a new engine. I was thinking I fucked this engine up. I was thinking the worst, right? I couldn't start the car. I was like, all this hard work, 2 years for a fucking float needle. Now, what I'm gonna do about this vapor lock fix is I'm gonna buy a new sending unit. It's on its way. I already bought it, and a new fuel filter. I'm gonna show you guys a fuel filter that's for vapor lock, and it's got 3 little nipples, and one of them goes back to the tank. So the excess goes back to the tank. A lot of videos are shown of what they do with the car for vapor lock, and this is a fix. So I bought a 25-foot fuel line hose. So I'm gonna run it from the engine to the sending unit. I'm gonna put a new sending unit on because it has an extra return line that the original one doesn't have. They don't have a return here. So return is where it goes to the carburetor, back to the gas tank. That's what a return is, but I don't have that. I just have one hose, one fuel line from the gas tank going to the carburetor, going to the fuel pump to the carburetor. So anyways, I heard another way to fix that is put an electric fuel pump on there, but I don't know. I'm not gonna do that one. I think that's more complicated. This one seems more simple and for me. So I'm so glad to be driving my car. I'm so blessed and fortunate, man. If it wasn't for those 3 guys helping me, Javier, if it wasn't for Big Robert, if it wasn't for his neighbor, I don't even know his neighbor's name, man. If it wasn't for those 3 guys, I would not be driving my car today. I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful, man. And I feel like, you know, things happen for a reason. I definitely feel like things happen for a reason. And I was in the car. I gave up. I gave up. I was stressed out so bad, and I gave up. I was putting my tools up back in my other car. I was cleaning up, and Robert comes out and tells me it's a misfire. Then I turn my car on. It keeps hitting gunshots. Then his neighbor comes out. Anyways, I'm on the road today, you guys.